welcome to RC Cars R Us. This episode of the Mad Force build is to get it running and to sort out the servo horn on the carburetor side. I wasn't happy at the way it looked. As you can see now, I'm taking it apart. I wanted to get it close to original spec as possible with the bits I had, so I'm just going through the various different types of servo horns that I can make suitable for this actual car. If you hear any talking in the background, that's me playing YouTube, so maybe you can play a little game. You can guess who's in the background, who I'm playing. There are quite some relevant YouTubers that I do play while going through the build. So as I'm trying to work out the servo horn on the carburetor side, as I'm thinking about it, I turn away and actually sort out the exhaust. I had to put the right angle rubber coupling on there, and trying to work out how am I going to attach the actual exhaust to the side of the Mad Force. And luckily I found some old coat hanger, which was perfect to attach that to the side. So as you can see there, I've attached it. So yeah, a lot of these parts on this car are quite old, so like things like the fuel tubing is a bit worn. At this point I wasn't too sure if I had any new stuff, because preferably I would like to have the tubing clear so I can see when I'm priming the engine the fuel will actually go into the carburetor. So as you can see there, it doesn't really reach that well to the top of the tank. There's a bit of a kink there at the exhaust side, so I just added a little bit more white tubing at the correct length, and that seems a lot better. So as you can see there, most of the screws had to be replaced with cap head screws.
Never guessed it. It's like I come down here, huh? Yeah, I'm sitting here in my chair trying to get the car started. And there's like dogs. No, the car just started, it's just thing, and then someone's going past me on a horse.
But some of them were a little bit longer than the original, so as you can see there, I'm actually taking them back out and I'm cutting them down. You don't actually see that on the video, but I'm actually cutting them down using the pliers method or my Dremel, and then inserting them back in so they don't protrude over the top of the nut, so they're actually flush with the actual nut on the other side. So the next mission here was with the same screw that I used for the actual shocks. I changed the length on those. Now we just switched over to the actual carburetor servo horn. Now with this little setup here, the actual rod that provides the carburetor to open and close, it was all the wrong length, so I had to cut it all down so it's the correct length to the servo horn. But also, I not only had to cut down the actual rod, I had to cut down the actual spring because the actual spring was too long. So you can see me just taking it back off and just measuring out, just gauging how much I'll have to cut the spring down so it's a perfect fit for the carburetor. Because the carburetor is a sliding carburetor, when the servo operates, it actually pulls the carburetor towards the edge of the actual Mad Force wall, and therefore that little rod actually sticks out the other side of it. So not only that, if you've got a body that's quite close to the side of the Mad Force, it will actually stick into the body. So you can see me there, I've actually cut down the spring and installed it back on, and look, it's a lot more better now.
So it's all already pre-made up. I've probably got to put ends on there. Hopefully Tony's
So I'm just measuring the side of the Mad Force to the actual servo rod, just to make sure it doesn't stick out, and also if it does, you know, it doesn't catch your skin or anything like that. So I've actually sanded it all down. So once that was done and I was happy, I put the wheels back on. Oh yeah, I forgot about this one. So with that engine, there was a second chassis. I'll explain this later on, actually, later in the video. But in the meantime now, I'm just swapping over the cylinder head screws with new screws, because all of these cylinder head screws were the wrong length and wrong size. So going back to that servo, the throttle servo, you can see that the actual throttle servo still has a star-shaped servo horn on it. So as I'm looking at that thinking, well, I don't need all of them, so I need to cut it down. In the meantime, I started to mesh the gears from the engine to the 3-speed on the Man Force. So it's an old school technique I use, just a bit of paper in between the gears.
With the last speaker, we do know that the jury has left the courthouse. So right outside where I am in the media room, there's a hallway, and there were divided curtains, lots of security out there guarding this jury. So we first saw the 6 alternates exit through a side entrance of the courthouse, and then we saw that 12-person jury. I know nobody.
Then try and tighten up the engine as close while crushing the actual paper together with the gears. And then what that does is, when you've actually tightened up the engine, as you can see now, when you pull the paper out, you'll just have that paper gap where the teeth of the actual gears will be actually nicely meshed together. It's quite a good. It's been going around for years, so, and it always works. Now the next little mission was the drive cup. The little grub screw kept on coming loose, so I just put a little bit of blue Loctite on there and inserted that back in place.
There was a lot of concern what might happen after the verdict was read. What's the scene like out there, Bill?
Well, Ben, what I really want to just touch on first is that there were some people, and you know, this different groups that were out here immediately surrounded the hospital, which is just down the street, to get checked
The
out.
next little
What you're seeing right now, it is
detail
calm
was
out
to
here.
actually cut the other two servo horn pieces off, and also to sort out the brake. The brake always seems to be a bit binding, even though this is not really the correct brake disc for this car. I think it has a 2-disc system, and I think this one kind of binds a little bit too much. So you can see here I'm taking the servo horn back off, and magically you will see two of the servo horn pieces have disappeared.
My theory is that they told them that a verdict is coming and we're going to whisk you out right away, which they did. When the verdict was read, you saw how Kyle Rittenhouse reacted. He started shaking and then fell down to the table. I was able to focus on that a little bit, but immediately my ear shot over to as well for Unity, which, you know, we're still working to see what that looks like here in Kenosha. But yeah, I did take away.
Here, Governor Tony Evers saying that, and I'm quoting here, no verdict will be able to bring back the lives of Anthony Huber and Joseph Rosenbaum.
So I'm just putting the electronics together. I'm just going to fire up the electronics quickly just to see that the servo horn is in the right place before I actually cut it.
I think we're going to see more and more video, and jurors expect that. They see that on TV, they know it, but a lot of
And then I realised that the steering is very slow, and also it's not centered.
It's a hard lesson to learn, but if you had to do it all over again and you said same thing is going to happen and life is going to be. And I'm not laughing at President Biden. What I'm laughing at is.
So you can see me there just testing the brake,
and the presidential candidate comment on it.
and it seems to be binding again, so I just backed it off. Just backed off the screw a little.
He's not a white supremacist. I'm glad that he at least respects the jury. You know,
And then I center the steering servo.
I learned I could wait 24 hours for a verdict.
I'm just checking the servo as well because it's very weak.
It was a case about self-defense.
As you can see there, I
the right to protect oneself from, you know,
put the little pillow ball back onto the servo, horn, and it seems a lot better now.
You know, what's he thanking me for? And I don't mean that it's insincere, but it takes room. And, you know, if they wanted to quit early because I think they were tense. And if there was some early verdict...
So it's back to the servo horn again. I'm looking at it for the third time because of the fact that on the USA 1 it's the opposite way round, but on the Mad Force it's this way round, the way you can see there now. But you can just see as the carburetor comes out, it hits the little the unused part of the horn, so I ended up cutting those off. So you can see there, they're cut now.
Right, okay, I think I've finished this.
That's it, I'll switch back onto
Mad Force.
the onboard
Been a bit quiet
video, and you should hear
building
me
this one because
talk about the rest of the build.
basically what I wanted to do is just get it all in order, get it running. I've changed, the major one was changing the crankcase on the engine, so this is all, seems to be, that's all good now. So, and then the pipe, getting the pipe sorted out. So yeah, getting this sorted out. I'm not really happy with this. I think there's meant to be a smaller little ball thing on there. Servo's a bit crackly, but you can tell it's old school technology. So all of these yeah, see, all the older servo and all that, it's in there. I think when I take it out, I'll swap over for the Skyfly receiver and controller. So therefore, if anything happens, it's not going to do a runaway. I haven't really put any oil in the shocks. They seem very, I mean, I could have it harder than that, but I think I want to leave it soft for now. So there's hardly any shock oil in these. These are like upgraded shocks. I don't know, you know, where they even come from. So I'll run it without no shocks in there, because it does feel very like it just bounced once. If I want it any harder than that, I'm gonna have to put a really light shock oil, because these springs seem to be very, very tough, and I can make them even tougher. So I've got a humpback battery in here that I'll sort out. So it's got very old, as you can see, very old electronics in there, the crystal and all that. So I'll take all this out and put my Skyfly receiver in there and set that all up. I'll leave the original servos in there, and I'll use the humpback battery in there as well. Virtually set the carburetor back to standard. I might just go through the braking procedure again, just because I put a new crankcase on here and I want it to all kind of bed in. So it's more about the standstill running and maybe just driving up and down in first gear. Then I'll come back and I'll have a look at this diff, because it seems a bit stiff to me compared to this side. This side seems very loose. Mind you, actually, that feels just as loose as this one, but this feels looser than this one. When I run it together, it seems very tight. So I think the brake is binding slightly. I think just ever so slightly, I think. Yeah. So what I want to do is just back off that brake a little bit. I might do that now. Where's the screwdriver? Just down here. I don't want to back it off too much, because sometimes I've done this before where I've backed it off really a lot and the screw's dropped out. I know you're meant to have a little bit of play in that screw. It seems a bit better now. Yeah, that seems a bit better. I've got some Loctite for. I've got Loctite for a bit of plastic. You just want that disc to just have a little bit of flex. Where someone's done it up really tight before. Yeah, that seems a bit better now. And then once I've got it running, I'm driving in first gear and I'm happy. I'll try and get third gear out of it. And then once I get third gear out of it, I'll be stripping it all down and then cleaning it all to make it look nice and pretty. I've got new screws and all that kind of stuff, so all these rusty screws will come out and all this kind of stuff get replaced. Also, I have another chassis here, which basically has been modified to take a Schumacher Pro 21R engine, and it's got all the correct bearings in there. It's got the bearing upgrade, and also it fits straight on to this thing, so onto the chassis. So basically, I don't have to drill out these holes on this chassis to fit this engine, even though this engine's more ready available. You can get so many different variations of this engine if you can't get this one. I just got this because I bought this used, so it came with the engine and the chassis. So I'll be cleaning this one up and hopefully swapping this over just to see. This is all original spec, Mad Force original spec. And then also I've got this where I can add any kind of engine really to this mount. It's got a special mount here, and I can add any kind of engine to this, and as long as it's got the same shaft length and all that, then yeah, you kind of really set up really, so you can have any kind of setup with any engine. I think now, because the new USA 1 is out, the mounts, I've noticed that they've got different kind of mounts now. I think they're a little bit lower. It's about half the height of these ones here, and I think you can fit kind of most engines on that mount that goes onto the chassis. So this is an old school chassis where the actual where the actual engine fixed direct to the chassis plate. It doesn't have any mounts, or it doesn't have any wings on the side of the actual engine. And this one, most modern engines now have this kind of wing setup. So it has like two little tabs either side of the engine, and then you bolt from that tab into a mount, and then it goes onto the chassis plate. But this is kind of old school, so it just bolts direct. So when you saw the actual other engine, someone had to try and, obviously the screws were coming out, and they tried to put bigger screws in there and cracked all the actual casing and all that. So luckily I got this used, and then it will go up for sale on eBay. I just like turning them around. It's quite a good project. It wasn't too bad, and yeah, I'll be selling this. Most probably with this, I'll clean this up as well. Most probably with this, and just say to the person, you know, you've got two engines there, or I might just take the engine for myself and put it in one of my Schumachers, because I've got Schumacher cars with these engines, and just say, look, you've got a mount there, you know, just get an engine, put it on this mount, and then you can add that to your Mad Force and go around whatever you want to do. So yeah, I'll have to think about that, how I'm going to put that one out. So I've got the old remote as well. This will go with it, so it's not the best. That little clicking you can hear is a cap head screw that's just hitting the servo arm underneath. If I show you, so you can see it there. It's hitting there. It's hitting this cap head screw. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change that to a button head screw, so it's out of the way, and that should cure that. So yeah, I've replaced all of this. I've made up a new tie rod. Couldn't get the original, so I've got 3mm by 100mm rod, and managed to make my own one up. It tells the instructions to make it a certain length, but then again, it's all been out, so I've just had to make it up as I go along. So I've managed to straighten this all out now. So as you can see, I put new privet bolts in here, sorted these bolts out. I think I might put washers in between this little horn and in there. Did I put any washers there? No, I didn't. I think I'm going to put some washers there just to help it slide a bit more, instead of it being against the actual arms. To be honest, if whoever gets this car, you kind of really need new servos. I'm going to put the original servos back in, but you kind of need new servos. What else? Just this little drive cup's got a little dig in it, but it hasn't really done anything to affect the thing. See, I'll put a bit of Loctite in there, because that scrub screw was coming out a lot. That shaft's a little bit bent. I might be able to take that out and straighten it. And this scrub screw, so when I take this apart and clean it all up, then I'll be adding the right screws and Loctite, and this will be ready for a startup. Where's the filter? This will be ready to have fuel in it. I've got some old fuel that I can burn. Yeah, it's ready for a startup now. So It's a bit messy in here. You can see how rich that running. Look at that. It's just all old fuel. Plus the fuel's a little bit old. I just can't get to that screw. When I put this exhaust in, I just can't get to that screw. So every time I'm going to have to undo this exhaust to get to that screw. You know, my pull start, wherever it is, oh, here it is knackered. Basically, the string pulls through the hole here. Every time, just pulls through the hole, makes the hole bigger. So I needed this kind of cassette. But the thing is about this cassette, it's for a 17mm one-way bearing, and you don't really find them very often. So if someone's got a spare one of these, they can donate, that'd be nice. But oh, see, that's all gone now. But basically what I did is I just put it in a socket like this. I put the drill on it and I went through it, you know, I put a drill on it and I managed to start it. So I might have to dedicate a socket to this. I don't want to use this yeah, I've got a nice 6-sided 17mm socket here. Dedicate. So what I'll do is I put a bit of tissue in here and then just make it up to the point. It'll be like this. In fact, I might even do that now while I remember. Give me a second now. So that will go on the end of the shaft, and then this drill will go on the end like that, and I'll be able to start the car up that way and just pull it off. Just got to make sure when I pull this off, it comes with the actual, it comes actually with the socket. So that's a nice like 6-sided, so that's a little tool. Other than that, I'll have to try and find a way round this. It'll give me more time. I can run the car, but it'll give me more time to do it. So basically it just comes around the hole. So let's put that to one side. So anyway, I'm happy that it's running. I'm just going to cable tie this over there. Cable tie these back on. I've left all the settings near enough stock settings, so I'd still have to go through that. So what I'm going to do is just cable tie this here so it doesn't get in the way. I should make this a bit shorter, but I'm just going to cable tie that so that's not in the way. Got clear tube, changed all the tubes. I'm so glad I changed the tubes. Let's take these off. So that's good. And the